Hello there, I am Danielle. Welcome to episode 3 of our series on the Soviet Union. Imagine walking down a snowy street in Moscow in 1950. Everywhere you look, there are bright red posters shouting about elections. The USSR loved to tell the world they were a free union of republics, with a fancy constitution that promised all kinds of rights. But here's the catch. There was only one party allowed, the Communist Party. When election day came, they handed you a ballot with just one name on it. You could tick yes, or you could spoil the vote, which would alert the secret police. Hey, keep an eye on this one. It wasn't an election, it was a loyalty test. Picture the whole country like one giant pyramid. At the very top in Moscow sat a small group of men called the Politburo. Everything, literally everything, had to be approved by them. On paper, the 15 republics and their provinces had their own governments. But in real life, every decision flowed from the top down. If the Politburo in Moscow decided your village should stop growing wheat and start growing cotton, you grew cotton. It didn't matter if it wrecked your rivers or your farmland. There was zero local say. Let's talk about the everyday freedoms we often take for granted today. Freedom of speech, pretty much gone. If you complained about bread lines or joked about the government, your neighbours might report you. People only spoke their real thoughts at home, whispering around the kitchen table with the radio turned up so the walls wouldn't hear. Freedom of religion. The state was officially atheist. Churches, mosques and synagogues were knocked down or turned into storage sheds. Priests and imams often ended up in prison camps. Freedom of association. You couldn't start your own club, union or protest group. Only the party's youth clubs, like the Komsomol, were allowed. Right to bear arms. Forget it. After the revolution, the state made sure only the police and army had weapons. Social care. The constitution did promise nice things. A job, a home, healthcare, and school for everyone. And the Soviets delivered on some of that. Unemployment basically didn't exist, and healthcare and school were free. But these promises came with a heavy cost. You never actually owned your home. In the early years, whole families lived crammed into a shared apartment. Later, they built huge concrete tower blocks. You got your own tiny flat, but it still belonged to the government. Want a car? That was kept for the political elite. You might wait years on a list just to buy a Lada. Shopping was a nightmare. You'd stand in line for hours for basic things like toilet paper or shoes, sometimes basic food. Because the government tried to plan everything, sometimes a factory would hit its target by making 10,000 left-foot boots and 0 right-foot ones. Food shortages occurred regularly. The Soviet system was a strange contradiction. The constitution shouted, "Power to the people!" But the reality was, "Power to the party!" The state was your parent, boss, teacher, and police officer all rolled into one. It gave people basic security. No one starved on the street, but it took away the freedom to choose, to dream, or to speak up. In my opinion, it elevated the hive above the individual. In our next and final episode, we'll look at the Cold War, how this giant machine tried to spread itself across the globe, and why, after 70 years, the whole thing came crashing down in 1991. Please join us for our last episode.